sharing, and I said, let's figure out what to do with this other 95%. Let's figure out, now we have a third of that invested in microfinance, education, agriculture, and small business, and other things. So again, ready, fire, aim. How did I get started? I thought, well, there is no market that exists. There's no like central database that you can go to and look up what kind of investments are available, because the market is just not that far along yet. So we ended up hiring a young MBA intern from here at Pacific and armed him with Google. And he spent about 3 months just going out and finding investment funds, investment opportunities, searching on a variety of different areas. One of our interests is microfinance. So we found every fund available that was in microfinance, and then we whittled down from there. So a couple things. One, on our Impact Assets website, we've now identified and keep a database of the 50 largest fund managers for impact. And a few of those are Africa managers that deal with agriculture. I also do a lot of work in the fair trade space, and I know Pacific is working on hopefully becoming a fair trade university. And fair trade is all about agriculture and farmers and investment. And so just a quick Google search into fair trade in Africa, and you'll find a bunch of really interesting things going on there. But I think the question is good from its overall context of it's not easy yet. It's just not easy to become a social entrepreneur. And it's not easy yet to become an investor in the space because it's still a very small, it's kind of an unrecognized area yet. I'm convinced it's growing dramatically and it's going to become easier in years future. But I'm also excited to be around a number of early adopters who are going to kind of help make that happen more quickly. Anything else? Yes?
So you go to conferences.
I had to pick between my two mentees here. I go Kelly first, then Tyler.
So if you go to CGI, Ashoka, tons of conferences all the time. When you're at a conference and you're being approached by 30, 40, 50 students, what is one of the qualities that gives one of those people a breakfast or lunch with you? When they approach you, what is it they have that says, oh, I want to sit down and hear more about what this guy has to say?
It's cash, generally. You know, Ken, that's a great question. I would say more than anything else, because, so what will happen is folks will come up and they'll have this great social business idea and they'll want to share it with me. And I'm always eager to hear new ideas. I'll make a decision to spend some time with them, though, without ever having heard enough of the idea to really get it vetted and figure out if it's great or not. So it's passion. It's how passionate is that person. And sometimes it's how hard did they have to track me down, right? How bad do they want to do this? And because what I found is that's, anytime you're getting into a new field, you know, there's a lot of great ideas out there. Actually implementing those ideas takes passion and determination. So the more passionate and determined somebody is, the more likely that I'll really want to sit down with them and say, okay, what's your idea? And in some cases, I'll end up, because not all ideas are great, right? I'll end up saying, you know, you're really passionate and you're really determined, but I don't think this idea is probably the thing that I would have you execute. I think I can go back to the drawing board and think about different ways to solve a problem. And sometimes I end up keeping in touch with these people, and they come back and they say, yeah, you know, right, I did. And now I'm looking at doing it this way. And again, ready, fire, aim. Think about the solution, test it a little bit, recalibrate, test it again, etc.
So my question is, we just returned from the GAIN conference on student investment funds. And the question that they asked each of their highly successful panelists was, what was your biggest failure and what did you learn from it? So today I'd like to ask you that.
What was my biggest failure? You know, it's interesting. First of all, I'm not pausing because there were none. Right? I'm pausing to think about which one is probably the most enlightening. Because here's one I'll share that I think was very personal for my partners and I. So we sold our business in 2006, and it was right at the height of the markets. And in fact, for those of you that don't remember, 2008 was kind of a crummy year. It's probably a year you guys were glad you didn't yet have 401ks, because by the end of the year they became 201ks. But we sold our business in 2006, and the way these business sales generally work is we received a bunch of money up front, and then we had the opportunity to receive another bunch of money 3 years down the road based on how the business performed. We actually structured the entire transaction around our ability to maximize that second half of the transaction, because we were so confident in 2006 this business was on a trajectory. We weren't going to sell it short. We were going to, get everything it was worth. Well, the way it worked is that the amount of money was pegged on how much income the business made over a particular 12-month period, from September of 2008 to September of 2009. So interestingly, and I will say that over the course of those couple of years, there were 35 partners in the firm that were part of this whole plan. We brought a bunch of other people in. It was a kind of a profit-sharing thing. And every month I would share with them, based on our profits, where we were at and the likelihood that I felt we had to reach this second called an earnout, this second half payment. So June of 08, July of 08, August of 08, we'd actually exceeded the number that we needed. So I came back and I said, I got to tell you, I think the likelihood's like 100%, because unless we go way backwards as a company, remember saying in August of 2008, unless something happens that's unprecedented in the financial markets, we're just going to move forward, we're going to breeze through this thing, we're going to make it. Well, in September 2008, companies like Lehman Brothers and AIG and others went under, and suffice it to say that we fell short in that 12-month period of making anything. And that was a big blow, because for us, we'd structured it so that the amount of money in our foundation would have actually doubled had we made the earnout. And for a while, it was really disappointing, financially, and also just because, we're all competitive, right? So we built this thing, and we wanted to make it, and we failed. It didn't make it. But I thought about failure, and I failed a lot of other times. Fortunately, I guess, not as large. So that's actually my biggest failure, as I think about it. But what I realized was there was nothing I could do about it. And I could remain disappointed about the fact that our foundation was going to be half the size that on our board we originally thought that it was going to be. Or I could decide, you know what, that's life. It happened. There's nothing I can do about it. So how can we repivot with our foundation, punch above our weight, and try to get twice as much influence out of every dollar we've got now, because we're not going to be having that extra money in there. And as I think about it 3 years later, from that perspective, I think had we gotten that extra money, we probably wouldn't have been as innovative as we are today. And I'm not sure we would have had the impact that we have today. So as I think about it now, my partners would probably disagree, but I'm not so sad about not getting it, because I think that it was a lesson importantly learned, and I think that we ended up punching above our weight in certain respects and being a lot more innovative than we would have been if we just had more money available to kind of throw at things the conventional way.
My name is Mariana. Good evening. I'm a exchange student here in the university. And this summer I had a great opportunity to go into the ambassador in Russia. So Jerry gave me a wonderful challenge to bring the notion of social entrepreneurship back home. And so my question is, my challenge is to make non-governmental organizations more sustainable and companies more socially responsible. So my question is how I can approach this challenge, how I can go and ask, for example, non-governmental associations or organizations, tell them, be more sustainable. I'm a student, I just exchange student, I'm going back home, and this American thing I'm bringing back home and say, be more sustainable. And to companies say, be more socially responsible. So how I can approach my community? Thank you.
Wow. Well, so that's, I'm not sure there's an easy answer to that. But I'll just start by saying that this whole phenomenon of social responsibility in business, social entrepreneurship, started originally as kind of a Western phenomenon here in the U.S., in Europe, kind of North America, and Europe. I'm interested, I'm intrigued by what's possible in Russia. I mean, Russia is, one of the emerging markets that's very rapidly growing. And as I sit and think about it right now, we're doing work in China, in India, and in Brazil, and in South Africa, the BRICS, B-R-I-C-S, 4 of the 5 real emerging markets. We're not doing anything in Russia.
Exactly.
No, seriously, I mean,
That's competition.
so I think that Russia probably poses some interesting challenges because of non-transparency in a lot of those markets and companies, and the fact that a lot of them ended up being former government-owned enterprises. But boy, the economy has grown dramatically. I guess I would suggest that a couple of things. I don't know what the NGO sector looks like in Russia. For example, in China, I know one of the real issues is there is not a nonprofit sector yet in China. So we work with social entrepreneurs in China, but 99% of them are for-profit, because it's like in China, as I understand it, I'm looking over here at Mr. Walker, who spent a year in Beijing, but as I understand it, you can start a for-profit social enterprise in like a week, and to start a nonprofit social enterprise could take you years.